and we're up and going for tonight's live Q&A for Monday, March 27th. I haven't had a chance to grade assignment 5 yet, but I've looked at a couple and overall very pleased with how everybody did. I know it was not a very easy exercise, but I think once people looked at the example that I provided, as well as kind of did some of their own research, I will provide some additional information in case anybody felt a little uncomfortable. But overall, I appreciate everybody working hard on it and trying to figure it out. So that assignment I should have graded tomorrow night, Wednesday. So you should have your grades Wednesday and Thursday. Assignment 6 with respect to the toolkit submissions. Everybody should know what their assignment is, and those are due by 11:59 p.m. this Saturday. Several of you have already submitted them, so I appreciate it. What I had planned to do tonight was keep this short. As soon as this is over, I'm going to prepare a video for the sake of everybody so that everybody finds out at the same time regarding the project, the class project, which will be your last major assignment after this week. You still need to be working on the assignments. On the article readings, I went and checked the discussion board. I've checked it a couple of times, and overall, I like the progress. But some of you, if you get a chance and get your assignment done early this week, you might want to later this week go ahead and do your article assignments and go ahead and get those in. Those article assignments, and I'll put this out in an email. Those article assignments, I believe I set the date of April 15th. For when they are due. So they need to be submitted. Those article assignments need to be submitted to the discussion board no later than 11:59 p.m. Saturday, April 15th. That's when they are due, I believe. So with that, I will provide information about the main assignment. The main assignment that you will have, which will be the class project, you can choose to work at it in groups of 3, or you can choose to work on it solo. If you choose to work on it in a group of 3, you will only pick one of your 3 counties. So if you choose to go solo, you will still do just one county. You'll be responsible for the same kind of work. If you choose to work as a group, you can work as a group, but you can only choose one county. You don't do 3 counties worth of work. Those are the rules for the assignment, and I will explain that again in the explanation. I also want to talk about that I do have some lectures that I have been working on and will be posting this week and next. Over the next 2 weeks, I will post several lectures, and I will also post 2 or 3 interviews. I've done 2 of them, and I have them ready to go. They'll be uploaded here soon, and I know y'all have heard that, but these are ready to go and will be up next couple of days. And these interviews are with economic development professionals and with government officials who are involved in economic development. And as we kind of get into some of the final discussions about partnerships and planning tools and some of the meat of actual economic development work, I definitely want you to hear their perspective in terms of how this work is put together. And I've got one more interview that I'm going to try to do in the next 2 weeks. And then I've got another one that I'm going to try to do in the next 2 weeks to talk about, in particular, one type of economic development, and that's the utilization of tax credits. Because for those of you who are going into local government in particular, but even those of you who work in the private sector, tax credits are a major tool that is used for economic development, particularly here in Eastern North Carolina. We do have a lot of tax credit utilization, both historic tax credits, which have been somewhat of a political football at the state level the last several years, and then also what's called the New Market Tax Credit Program, which is a federal program that it's available also to distressed areas, and there are many here in Eastern North Carolina. I do want to give an opportunity. I also do want to mention one more thing, that anybody who might have questions with respect to their grading or maybe missing grades, I do apologize. One of the challenges I have in receiving these assignments by email is sometimes the subject headings don't match up right when I try to do searches to try to look through my email to pull them. So I might have missed one, and some of you have brought that to my attention, and I am working on those, and hopefully that'll be addressed in the next day or 2. I also will apologize. We've had some things go on here at my work the last couple of weeks that have kind of weren't planned when I agreed to take this class. one of which was that my boss decided to retire. He's retiring this week, and he's retiring in the middle of budget prep. So I've had to truncate a schedule that usually runs through February, March, and all of April and half of May, and take that schedule and basically get as much done before the end of March as I can before he leaves, which is this week, which has meant I've had to really try to do the best I can in that area. That's meant that some of the things I've wanted to do, I have not been able to do for this class, and I am terribly sorry for it, because I do want to make sure you're getting out of this class everything you should be, make sure the curriculum standards are being met. I have done my best to keep up with the grading. I think everyone has done a very good job in some cases of teaching things by themselves. And I think in a subject like economic development, that's not a bad thing, because when it comes to a subject like this, a lot of what you're going to learn is self-taught. Most of the people who are involved in economic development don't have professional certifications or credentials. Most of them learn by doing. Most of your work is learning by doing. And I would probably say that, and especially when you start looking at some of the toolkit examples that I shared, you kind of learn how you go about doing that work. Because a lot of the people who go into those areas of work aren't necessarily formally trained to do it. They may have trade experience, business experience, public policy experience, but then they kind of have to learn, okay, how do I take this and actually how do I help try to provide resources to help grow local economies, regional economies, national economies, work with other governments, work with other agencies, work with the limitations that government has with respect to its authority, with respect to its budgets. All of those are challenges. So definitely it is something that governments expect, or that citizens expect governments to do. They expect governments to be friendly or contributing to economic development. It can mean different things to different people, but I do think you kind of learn through a process. And I do think the analysis work y'all have done, which overall I've been very impressed with, I think that's been helpful to everybody. So does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask at this point? And you can type the questions in on chat. What I might do, and I'm going to try this, is I am going to do something crazy here. I am going to unmute everybody. That can be unmuted. And I'm trying to unmute people. If you want to try to unmute yourself, you can ask me a question by audio, or you can just type it in. I know some of you don't have active microphones. Are there any questions? So I also wanted to mention something else. Okay, is our final project just accumulation of work we have done in our analysis? That is a component of it. You will be utilizing the work that you've been working on in your final analysis. So again, if you pick a group, that means you can kind of look at the 3 counties and say, okay, of this work, what do we got to work with? You'll have a chance to, you don't have to pick your county before you pick the assignment. Now, if you do it alone, you work with the county that you've been working with. Don't try to pick another county. But if you're working as a group, you can choose from among the 3 that you have. You know, at the end of the day, it's what you feel most comfortable with, but you're going to be working with at least, somebody's going to still be working with the county that they've been working with through the assignment. But it will be utilizing additional concepts that I will do some lectures on, that will be explained in the assignment, to be able to utilize those concepts to complete the final project. And in that final project, you will be doing some final analysis as well as providing some conclusions for actions that can be taken. Some of you have already kind of started leaning in this direction with your analysis writing, and I've been very pleased with that. You kind of see, you're kind of starting to ask yourself, okay, what can I do with this? What can I do with the community and the county that I picked? But some of you, you're still working on trying to identify it, which is what the assignment's about, what the assignments have been about. And as we now go into this final project, you can do that. That's a very good question. Any other questions? So when did you say the assignment will be posted? The assignment will be posted by tomorrow. It'll be posted. There will be two things. There will be a YouTube video, and there will also be the assignment sheet. So there will be two parts. There will be two things that you can look up about the assignment. But the assignment will be posted. That's tomorrow, March 28th is when the assignment will be posted. And you will have, let's see here, you will have at least until, I'm going to look this up real quick. You'll have at least until the 21st to complete the first. There will be two steps to it, and the first step will be due on the 21st of April, and the second step will be due on the 28th of April. So, and then the week after, the second part of that is due will be your final, the first week of May. So once you're done with this assignment, which is due this week, you will have 3 weeks to complete the physical assignment. And of course, during that time, you've also got your reading. So as we finish up this semester, you see that a lot of that work you did in the first half, and it's kind of one of those cases where you're trying to meet an end date to complete a large amount of work and get the data put together, and then start working on the analysis in the second half. It creates a lot of work up front, but then obviously, as you can see, it pays off towards the second half. And not all classes are like that. Some classes are the reverse. Now, in terms of your reading, if anybody wants to use as the non-academic paper the Associated Press AP report about the economic impact of HB2, you are more than welcome to. But you need to actually do your best to find the report. I'm going to look it up real quick. Some of y'all have probably seen a lot of headlines, and I'll just bring one up and I'm going to share it with you. Y'all have probably seen headlines like what you're hopefully about to see in just a second, if you haven't already. Basically talking about that HB2 is supposed to cost North Carolina more than $3 billion in lost business over a 10-year period. This was the result of a study that was conducted by the Associated Press. And it's actually 12 billion, but basically 12 years. But basically it equals out to about $300 million a year. The Associated Press did this report, and it was released over the week. This is the actual AP story. And they based it on a couple of factors. They do have the analysis here. So if you go to the AP website, and I'm not going to share this because I haven't shared the other articles necessarily, but you can find it if you type in, like if you were to type in AP, if you were to Google AP NC HB2, you would find it. But I don't want you just gleaming somebody else's article on it. I want you to actually pull up the AP analysis and look at it and research that, because there's a lot of stuff out there. Are a lot of people out there. There's going to be a lot of points and counterpoints in the discussion. If you do it, I also want you to kind of talk about some of the people who question it, because there's going to be some articles and there's going to be some people out there who are going to refute the information. And there's been some other studies done to say that the impact has been negligible. This is a case where there are competing views about economic results. And this goes back to first of all, you want to look at, does their analysis really tie into the analysis you've been doing? How is it different? That may be something to look at. I don't know. I have not looked at this entirely yet. I haven't had time to. But what I want to see is, how is what you are doing in this class enabling you to perhaps better look at how the media covers these topics? Number of responses that you expect to participate in. There's not a minimum, but I do expect participation. I would say I want to see that there's been participation. I'm not going to say specifically, but you're submitting two. So, hopefully you're taking some time to participate. I'm not, and I think it's also a matter of, would I potentially consider it possible to give additional credit based on additional participation? That might be a possibility, but I want to see that it's constructive participation. You're not just typing in, I agree or I disagree. I want to see that there's some back and forth. I do want to see that if you do write some feedback, that you are actually typing something up, that you are saying, well, that's interesting, or have you thought about this or stuff. I do want to see that you are accessing it. Obviously, there is a news reason why the story came up. A couple of days before this story from the AP came up, there was some talk about the fact that the NCAA has basically kind of hinted to the state of North Carolina that the deadlines for bids for basically all NCAA tournament events are going through 2022 are due pretty soon. Many of the local tourism development groups and even the state have bids ready to go. They've had bids ready to go. They don't change those bids all that much from year to year. The problem is those bids are going to be denied on the basis that the NCAA, through its members who are the presidents of universities, have said they will not take events to states that have laws that are consistent with HB2. They've used HB2 as the standard. Now, some states have laws that kind of tie into that area, but not exactly. So, the question you have to ask yourself, if you choose to do this, and one of you can, and I would probably say if somebody chooses to do this, you need to send an email out to the group through Blackboard to say, I'm doing this, but I want to leave it to y'all. I do want to say, however, that since this matter has come up, and I do sometimes think that, sometimes something that is happening immediate isn't as important, but it's something like this, I do think it is. I do want to leave that open to you. I also want to point out something else. If you want to potentially look up local stories about if you want to perhaps look up some local news that might be happening in North Carolina or another part of the Southeast, talking about an economic project where incentives or other government action is required, like special tax breaks or infrastructure, or the government is looking to build something for economic development, like a convention center or an arena or something like that, and those can be here in Eastern North Carolina, they can be elsewhere. You might find some articles that talk about the economic studies that are done, and you might want to look at those stories. That might be an example, again, of a non-academic article you can use because it's dealing specifically talking about economic studies. And then the question you could ask yourself is, how are they communicating the study? Are they really understanding? Does the reporter really understand the study? And does the study really back up what's being said in the article? Like we've learned about in terms of the economic-based analysis, which y'all did for assignment 5, you kind of learn very quickly that the analysis isn't perfect. You can sit there and you can look at those multipliers and you can see how the work is done, and you can say to yourself, that seems like a pretty strong number. And I'll be very honest, it is. The numbers are pretty strong when it comes to that, and there's a lot of debate about the relevancy and the accuracy of those multipliers. Those multipliers have been around for a long time. There's a lot of studies that prove them, but there's some people who question them. So they're kind of the measure that we have to measure the economic impact of a given activity. And if you actually go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Bureau of Economic Analysis, you can get localized multipliers already calculated for a given area. They charge for it, which is one of the few things the government does charge for when it comes to data. But that's because they have an agreement with another firm. But those are some options that are there. Also, if I know we have some professionals here, and if one of you wanted to email me about that, in absence of doing the article, talk about a particular session, either a workshop or an event that you went to specifically referring to a economic development topic, and you kind of want to talk about, based on your work in the research, kind of how you applied what you've learned and what you are learning to your understanding of the topic being discussed, you're welcome to do that. I think maybe a couple of you attended the conference that was held in Greenville last week by NC Visit, or by Visit 365. I was trying to make it over there last week and didn't, because some of my work requires looking at what they're doing, but it didn't get the chance to. What I will say is that is something else you could look at doing, but you would need to send me if you've got the presentation slides or you've got the presentation title and some notes, I would want to check it first before you did it. If you want to be certain that it'll be accepted, you stick to the original assignment. But I did want to throw out some other options because I realize that there's might be some other options out there for people. But I'll leave that at that. So, are there any other questions? Stop sharing the screen. Okay, just give you all another minute or two. It is an option. It is an option for in replace of the article, your non-academic article. It would be an option to supplement the non-academic article for the article assignment if you wanted to use a workshop presentation. Presentation. Non-academic article. First one, non-academic article would be like something in a magazine like Business North Carolina or The Economist or The Atlantic, or on one of the Atlantic's websites like City Lab. Those that are not written like what you would see in an academic journal, but are not necessarily just newspaper, or if it's a newspaper article, it's a deep newspaper article. It's not just like a headline grabbing article. It's not a blog. It's not just a general blog post, but it's written for a discerning audience. Another example also of non-academic articles would be articles that are found in trade and industry publications, as well as professional group publications. Presentation. There will be a presentation. We've got to figure out how to do it. It will be available for people to do distance-wise. My goal still is to actually have an on-site class on that Monday, the last Monday before exam week. That's still my goal, but I will need to confirm it. There will be, I will go ahead and tell you, on Monday, April the 10th, there will not be a live Q&A. So go ahead and mark your calendar. There will not be a live Q&A on April the 10th. And the reason why is that's the first night of Passover. My wife and daughter are Jewish, and we have a Seder, and there will not be a live Q&A that evening. So that will be April 10th. But I will tape something for that evening. If people have questions, they can email them to me, and I will be happy to answer them during the taping. But there will be a presentation. It won't be very long, but I will give there to be an opportunity for there to be a presentation, and it will be something that people can participate in either remotely live or that they could potentially be able to record if you feel like you can do that. So we will have multiple ways to present, but we will plan on doing the presentations on that Monday before exam week. So it'll be the last Monday of April, which is, if I remember correctly, is April. Actually, it'll be May 1st. I'm sorry, it will be May 1st. It'll be. I think, if I remember correctly, I'm looking at it real quick. Well, I'm looking at, I think I still have a day of class. Looking at it very quickly. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, reading day, I won't be able to do. So it would be the 24th. If we do presentation, it would be the 24th. So we'll figure something out because class is in on the 25th, and I apologize for that. But I will work that out with respect to it. Again, your examination will be distributed on Monday, May 1st, and will be due, and it will be due. It says final exams. Looking at this, final exams end. I need to check the class schedule. I thought I had seen a previous schedule, so I need to take a look at something here. But your assignment will be due. Okay, your assignment will be due on the 24th, on the 21st, and then so. I'll have to work on this some. Thanks, Amanda, for this. I need to work on this. I thought I had set this properly, and I didn't. Again, this is my first time teaching a class in a while, and that's kind of if any of you are graduating, you can let me know privately. But if any of you are graduating, make sure you tell me in advance so I make sure that your exams are graded appropriately, because I know I know that there's a different rule, and I don't see it here in the schedule, but I want to make sure that I get your grades in on time for anybody who's graduating. So if you are, I need to know in advance. I've been trying to use the online systems, but again, I didn't receive any formal training from the university, so I'm having to kind of learn it as I go along. But I'll make sure. But I will. Let me go back. Let me actually take a look real quick at the schedule to see what I did. Okay, yeah. The final exam. Okay, I had set some dates based on when classes were due, on the end of classes, and that was that the first half of the assignment the final assignment was due on the 19th, and the second half would be due on the 26th. So we can still. The presentations would actually be on the 17th. Let me check this. Let me check my schedule again. The presentations, we will still plan on doing presentations on the 24th, with the idea being that then the final submission would be due on the 25th. So it'll be the 18th and 25th more than likely, but I will clarify that in the assignment. So thank you guys for that. So for those of you listening on replay, watch the assignment video for the final assignment project to learn about the submission dates for the two parts of it, as well as for the presentation date. We'll get all that clarified. The presentation will likely be on the 24th of April. And then the final, probably more than likely, the final will be distributed by the end of that week, by the end of that last week of April, with a deadline of, I think I'm going to set the deadline for probably May 2nd. There will not be any Q&A or any discussion that week because it'll be exam week, but it would be probably due either on May 2nd or May 3rd. So I make sure I have time to grade those. And I also remember I need to make sure I can grade those papers for those who are graduating first. So we'll make sure the deadline, that everything works in concert to make sure that we can get everybody through. So are there any other questions? Well, seeing none, unless someone wants to type one in, I'll wait just another couple of seconds. Okay, seeing that there are no questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you very much for your feedback. We greatly appreciate it. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording. Again, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to email me at kenneth.hunter@rockymountnc.gov. I appreciate everybody's participation, and I look forward to talking to you all again. We will have a Q&A next week. Thank you. Have a good week. Take care.